Hey everyone, since Fallon already introduced us, we can jump right in. In our meeting today, we want to share and demo for you Microsoft Defender for Cloud's data security capabilities that can make you more productive at reducing risks and respond to data breaches in cloud environments. Next slide. We're trying to be as light as possible on PowerPoint slides, but our overall theme and topics are going to center around the challenges defenders face, how to enable data sensitivity scanning, and how to operationalize it in your environments. Go ahead. So, cloud data estate security challenges can be divided up into three categories. First, we need the ability to discover the cloud data estate. Security starts with visibility, and security teams have a blind spot when it comes to discovering their cloud data estate due to its complex and dynamic nature. And by this, I don't mean just tracking actions or resources at the control plane, but what is really going on at the data plane as well. After all, that is what we've been charged with protecting. Security teams struggle to discover and assess what all is in use, how accessible it is, and if it contains sensitive data or not. So then we need the ability to reduce risks to the data in the cloud. And security teams are facing an overwhelming number of misconfigurations associated with all of their cloud data resources. But they're missing out on the data context, which would allow them to prioritize the remediations of misconfigurations or vulnerabilities that can lead to these sensitive data exposures. Think about it. There are only so many things that can get fixed in a finite amount of time. And what we want is for you to be able to quickly prioritize and fix what matters as quickly as possible. Go ahead, next slide. And finally, we need the ability to detect threats to your cloud data estate. Since the cloud data estate is so dynamic, security teams need to monitor and respond to suspicious activities across these environments, which may indicate a data breach. Again, if you have two alerts, we want you to be able to take action on the one that contains sensitive data first, and then get to the one that doesn't. So once this is enabled, Defender for Cloud automatically and continuously discovers the entire cloud data estate. So we are discovering managed and shadow data resources in use across multi-cloud environments. We're discovering and evaluating their accessibility and their data flows inside the cloud. And we discover critical data resources that contain sensitive data using an agentless and intelligent data sampling scans. I'm going to hand it over to my peer Pavel, who's going to go into more detail about how to onboard. But if there's only one thing you take away from my portion, it's the importance of the context of the data in which you're protecting. We want you all to be able to discover sensitive data and prioritize your precious resources on protecting what matters most. Over to you, Pavel.
Thank you, Dick. So first of all, I would like to position Defender for Cloud within our information protection solutions we deliver to our customers. So there is a couple of differences between Defender for Cloud and other solutions that provide data classification and data discovery, and also some overlaps between those two. So on the left side, we have Defender for Cloud that its main use case in this data-aware security posture story, it's enrich and give additional context to the detected misconfigurations, to the risky situations that could expose your data. The personas we are focusing in this case, the typical Defender for Cloud personas are usually security admins and security operations. So the use case is a little bit different compared to Microsoft Purview, where in Microsoft Purview governance, which is the part of Microsoft Purview which focuses on data discovery and data classification, is more more focused on the governance, data lifecycle, data mapping, data catalog, and mapping the entire data lifecycle, where the personas that use these solutions are mainly data and privacy officers and personnel. The difference between the scanning approach is very simple. In case of Defender for Cloud, where we need to scan a huge amounts of data across all the different cloud resources, and we need to enrich the security recommendations and findings, we use a smart sampling scan, which can deliver this very quickly compared to traditional data classification scanning. So you get ultra fast results and information about the sensitive data residing in your cloud resources. On the other hand, in Microsoft Purview governance, the engine is highly customizable. It goes very in depth. It offers you many different possibilities that are closely tied to the use cases that Microsoft Purview Governance offers. So in this case, the distinction is clear in the use cases, in the scanning capabilities. There's just one thing that is common for these two solutions, and it overlaps in this case. If you already have existing investment in Microsoft Purview labels, you maybe created your custom sensitive info types to define the data classification, you can actually leverage this information in Defender for Cloud for its scanning capabilities. So as I will show you later, you can enrich Defender for Cloud scanning with your existing labels and existing custom info types that you have in your Microsoft Purview deployment. So what we have look at, the following session, we will have a look at the phases of deploying data-aware security posture in your environment. So first of all, we will have a look at enablement of the solution. How would you enable it in Defender for Cloud, in the different plans and its differences, and also the multi-cloud capabilities we offer in this solution. Second, we will have a look at the configuration, meaning importing the sensitive info types, labels, customizing the data categories, and adjusting the thresholds for which labels will be included in the scanning. Third, we will talk about the discovery, the scanning capabilities, the supported storages, and the intervals in which the data scanning engine actually takes place. Last but not least, in the reporting part, which Stan will focus on, we'll have a look at the data security dashboard, the ways how you can leverage the extra context about the sensitive data in Cloud Security Explorer, attack paths, and also in alerts. Let me switch to the demo environment so I can show you right in our portal about how you can enable these capabilities. So first of all, the enablement of data-aware security posture or sensitive discovery, you need to go to your environment settings and the plans that are in your subscription. So in my case, I will choose this CyberSec SOC subscription. And data sensitivity scanning is included in two plans. One is Defender CSPM, and another one is in Defender for Storage. So there is no additional cost to enabling the sensitive discovery in these two plans. It's included. The difference between data, let's say data-aware security posture in the CSPM plan and the storage plan is also a little bit different in use cases. So in case of Defender CSPM, you focus on reducing the top risk to your sensitive data and to gain comprehensive visibility on your data estate. In the Defender for Storage plan, it more focuses on prioritizing security alerts on sensitive data and detecting sensitive exposure events. You can have enabled the data-aware security posture on both of these plans. In case you have enabled it just for Defender for storage, you will have the scanning results just for the resources that are covered by Defender for storage. In the case of Defender CSPM, the storage coverage expands to a couple of other different resources, including the multi-cloud capabilities. So if you want to enable the specific feature, you will go into settings and monitoring after you enable the plan. And on the bottom, there is settings for sensitive data discovery, which is basically setting it off on. You need to be a subscription owner to be able to set this up. And as you can see, there are 2 plans in which this is covered. You also can use a custom role with specific permissions, which you can find in our documentation or about here. So that's how you enable this plan for and these capabilities in Azure. In case of other multi-cloud resources such as AWS environment or GCP environment, if you already enabled these connectors in our environment settings, you may have to upgrade or let's say update the deployment of these connectors because there are some additional permissions needed. So in the configure access in these different steps, you then would have an updated Cloud Terraform in GCP, you would have the same on the configure access part, where you would have the Terraform or the GCP Cloud Shell. In the case of AWS, it would be the CloudFormation template. So you would need to enable those, or if you don't have the existing connection with these environments, just to add them first. There are a couple of things you need to check before connecting these 2 different platforms. For permissions for AWS, you have to have the required permissions for discovery. You have to check that there are no policy that would block the connection to your Amazon S3 buckets. And in case of GCP, you need to have the administrator permissions for the account. So regarding this enablement, you can also use our scripts that we have on GitHub, where you can automatize the deployment and use PowerShell scripts to deploy it programmatically as well. So that would be for the part of enablement. Let's have a quick look on the sensitivity settings itself. So here you see the data sensitivity settings option. And after opening this, you will see a couple of different information. So first of all, if you are not familiar with our sensitive info types, these serve as a basis for this smart sample scanning, even in the case you don't have Microsoft Purview labels or custom info types. There are about 200 different sensitive info types that can identify various information, including finance information, personal and identifiable information, and others. Those are there by default. If you want to leverage custom info types or your sensitivity labels, you would need to go to your Microsoft Purview portal, and on the labels blade, you would have a pop-up coming up asking you for enabling this connection with Defender for Cloud. And then what you will see in Defender for Cloud will be your custom info types imported from Microsoft Purview, and also your sensitivity labels. So for this, you need to enable the connection in Microsoft Purview on the information protection and label blade. In case of the first 3 categories, finance, PII, and credentials, those are defined by us as those were identified as the most prevalent risk type of data that we see in the breaches. We have a couple of sensitive info types already predefined, but you can customize it as well. So those are by default. In case you have your Microsoft Purview integrated, you will see also your custom labels, or custom info types. These custom info types, if you are not familiar with the feature, can be defined by several different patterns. You can use regular expressions, you can use keywords, dictionaries, and functions to define more custom, let's say, sensitive data in your environment. The other category is basically just the rest of the sensitive info types that we have, and you can set it up as you need. And what about the sensitivity label threshold? This settings basically tells our data scanning engine which type of data to include in the scanning results if those were found and identified. That goes also for these categories. So basically on this data sensitivity settings, what you enable, what you configure will be included in the enrichment in Defender for Cloud regarding the sensitivity and info types. For sensitivity labels, there is a threshold to be set. And what it basically means is from the threshold, let's say here I have the general as a base for the threshold, general label. That's a label that you usually would see maybe when opening a Word document. On top, you would see general or your emails or team sessions. And these labels up in the sensitivity will all be included in the enrichment. And public and personal, which you see below the general, will not be included in the scanning results. So you can focus on the labels and the type of data that is the most important for you. You can turn it off or select different threshold for the labels that you need to use. These labels are custom defined in your Microsoft Purview environment. And as I mentioned, you can import them here as well. If you don't have Microsoft Purview integration and you don't have any labels imported, this option, this configuration will not be available. Okay, so for data sensitivity settings, we walked through the main type of configuration that you can have here. I can show you just for your idea, if you are not familiar with how this works in Microsoft Purview, the Purview, the option of classifying the data in Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal. So in Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal, first, as I mentioned, what would show you the integration with Defender for Cloud would be here on the labels blade. If you would run this for the first time, you would see a consent window that would ask you for enabling integration with Defender for Cloud. After you enable it, your published labels will show up in the Defender for Cloud environment. So these labels are obviously testing labels, and those can be included as well. What is more interesting for you, if you need to customize the scanning results and the enrichment on what data it will focus, you can define your custom sensitive info types. So these are created by you manually, and you can use a couple of different options to define such sensitive info type. And as I mentioned, those include keywords, regular expressions, patterns. Let's see. Let's enter some test information. So here in the patterns, you can actually create the custom sensitive info type by yourself. Regular expression, keyword list, dictionary, or functions. Combination of those and different other options that you can choose. So just for your idea how this would work in Microsoft Purview portal. Let me get back to our portal. So last thing I wanted to mention is the discovery scanning and the supported resources. So the types of resources, as I mentioned, if you have just Defender for Storage enabled, let's see how this looks in Defender for Storage account. In Defender for Storage account, if you go for Microsoft Defender for Cloud Blade, there you should be able, okay, here we have a classic plan, but in case of the new plan, you would have option to enable malware scanning and sensitive information discovery. That would just cover the Microsoft Defender for Storage resources. That means, in our case, in the sensitive data discovery, we are covering blob storage accounts, V1, V2, Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, and that's just for Defender for Storage plan enablement for sensitive data discovery. If you have sensitive data discovery, enable it on the Defender CSPM plan. In that case, you are getting some extra resources or data types that you can discover. One of them are Azure SQL databases, which is in preview, AWS S3 buckets, if you have the integration, any flavor of RDS instances in AWS, and with Google, the GCP storage buckets. So for these types of resources, you can have the sensitive data discovery. Regarding the types of data, the types of the file types we support, this is similar or let's say the same as in case of Purview. So there is a certain set of file types that we can scan through, mostly Office, text, PDF file types, archives. Everything is defined in our documentation. And regarding the databases and object storage, the scanning after enabling data-aware security posture takes up to 24 hours, typically, to see the results of the first discovery. For AWS and GCP, it could take within 48 hours or less. After files are updated in the discovered resources, the data is usually refreshed within 8 days, most commonly much more earlier, thanks to the ultra-fast sample scanning method. For data that is added to already discovered subscription or storage accounts added to already discovered subscriptions, it's again within 24 hours or less. Databases similarly are rescanned on a weekly basis, and for newly enabled subscriptions, the results will appear in about 24 hours. So that would be on my end. Over to Stan.
Yeah, thank you, Pavel. Let me start sharing my screen now. So, hello, everybody. So Dick explained the purpose, right? Why we're doing this in Defender for Cloud. Pavel showed us how to set things up, and I'm going to talk about how to actually see the results, and so how to understand those results and what to do with those results. And right away, I want to kind of introduce you to Data Security Explorer. This is a new blade that we just recently added to Defender for Cloud, like a week or two ago. It's a brand new that focuses on data security. So this is a comprehensive, all in one place view when it comes to your, data estate and any risks associated with your data environment. So if you've been using the sensitive data discovery for some time, so I really kind of encourage you to go back to your Defender for Cloud dashboard and take a look at this data security blade, because it's brand new and you might have not yet noticed. And so anyway, so here's the view. So first thing I want to kind of focus on is this first blade here, or first frame here, which shows you all your data resources in your scope. In my case, this is just one subscription, but if you have multiple subscriptions, so you will see the resources across that scope, including AWS resources if you have, or GCP resources if you have relevant connectors configured, and then sensitive data discovery enabled on those connectors. So, like as Pavel mentioned, today we support various types of storage resource types and database resource types, including managed databases like managed SQL instances, or AWS RDS instances, as well as hosted databases. Hosted means that this is like a SQL server running in a virtual machine, and you have some SQL databases running on that SQL server. That's kind of the difference. And it will also show you the coverage status, covered versus partially covered, not covered. So let's basically talk about this for a second. So fully covered means that you have both Defender CSPM and Defender for Storage plans enabled in any given subscription. So the reason being for that is that in order to get all benefits of data security posture, you need to have both plans. Why? Because in order to use Cloud Security Explorer and search across your data estate and see the risks associated with that, you need Defender CSPM offering. In order to see this security alerts prioritization based on data classification, you need Defender for Storage. So that's why I'm saying, in order to get full benefits of these, data-focused security, you need both plans. And that's what we kind of emphasize here. So how many resources are fully covered, meaning that you have both Defender CSPM and Defender for Storage enabled for, and as well as for databases. But if you see not covered, meaning that I don't have any in my environment, but we will show you which resources are missing, Defender CSPM or Defender for Storage. So this is when it comes to coverage. And right away, we can show you the sensitive resources that require your immediate attention. Because not all the resources are created equally, they're not equally exposed, and the risks might be different because you might have a storage account with sensitive data, but it's just it sits behind firewall where you have private endpoint configured, and there is no really risk for this data to be accessed or attacked from the outside. But if you have a storage account that is publicly accessible, right, with the anonymous access configured, that's a huge security risk. And that's what we kind of showed here. Another thing we also kind of focus here on is, are there any attack paths? Hopefully the audience is familiar with the attack path concept, which is part of the Defender CSPM offering, but I will get to this in a second. So, but basically, security resources that require attention means that there are some security alerts, high severity security alerts associated with those resources, or those resources are part of the lateral movement attack path that has been identified. Okay. So all these kind of links are clickable, and it will take us to the relevant part in Defender for Cloud. For example, if I click view all data resources, it will take us to the inventory view where I see all my data resources. Right. So basically, we just pre-populate the filter to kind of limit this view. You might have like millions of different other objects, but we kind of limit this view to just storage or in databases. Now, if it's a security analyst, of course, this red sign brings all the attention, and so we really want to focus on these high severity alerts. And if I click that, it will take us to the security alerts dashboard. And this view is already going to be limited to the data resources with high severity alerts that have some sensitive data, sensitive content in it. In my case, see, I have some SQL databases that been under some brute force attacks. And if I click this alert and go to the details, right away I see that this database contains some sensitive information, like financial information. Right, that's already kind of a very, very red sign. in a security, as a security analyst, I need to kind of start working on this alert first, because there is some sensitive information at risk, right? And this, apparently someone is trying to get unauthorized access to this database, and if they succeed, they will potentially get access to this information. Or here's another example. So I have a storage account that contains some labeled content. When you see this bluish rectangle here, this means, and with some names, in every environment is going to be different, because these are those sensitivity labels Pavel was talking about. So if you're using Microsoft Purview sensitivity labels, and you've enabled integration between Defender for Cloud and Microsoft Purview, and if the Defender for Cloud scanner found some previously labeled content, you will be able to see this information here in the security alerts blade, in the inventory view. I will show you that in a second. But so this basically helps security analysts, all this information, like the classification, labels, help security analysts prioritize their remediation activities, right? So we can go even further here, and let me show you what it looks like. If I go to the alert details, I see that, yeah, so this file has this Ninja, that's our internal demo label, has this label associated, and it contains some sensitivity info types. So we can actually, while in the security alerts blade, so we can play with these filters. So as part of the data-aware security posture offering, we provide two additional filters. One is sensitivity labels, which is available in the security alerts blade, and you can, if you have any alerts associated with the resources that have some labeled content, you'll be able to see all those labels in this list, and you'll be able to kind of focus on whatever label you want. So, for instance, if I want to see only a security alert for resources that labeled as Ninja FT, I can just click that, and I will see only those resources. Now, so the similar experience is available in the inventory view. So, for instance, you may have like millions of different objects, but if you want to see, for instance, all the resources that contain some specific sensitive information, like for instance, I want to see all the resources where Defender for Cloud has found this credit card numbers, and if I click that, so I will see like a limited view, and we'll see all the resources where this data sensitivity scanning capability discovered some sensitive content, and I can go further, and yeah, something happened, and see some details on that particular resource. Now let's go back to Data Security Explorer. So the next portion of Data Security Explorer focuses on top issues. For instance, we already kind of covered that, like a sensitive data resources with high severity alerts. The second part is the sensitive data resources that are part of some attack paths. That's interesting. So let's go and explore what this means. And this means that some of the data resources where Defender for Cloud discovered sensitive content are part of the attack path. And what this means that if one of the resources gets compromised, this might lead to a compromise of some other resource. In this particular example, we see internet exposed blob storage container with sensitive data is publicly accessible. That's pretty, self-explanatory. This means that I have some container with sensitive content. In my case, was some secret key discovered, and this container is part of the storage account, which is accessible from the internet. It's definitely a security risk, right? Because this everyone from the outside can access this storage account and get the content of this. Another example is this one. It's actually a good one. Internet exposed virtual machine has high severity vulnerabilities and read permissions to data stored with sensitive data. This one is better actually. So we have a virtual machine. So this is a Windows Server 2019 based on this name. That hasn't been fully patched, right? And it has some open vulnerabilities with high severity vulnerabilities. And in addition to that, this actual virtual machine is exposed to the internet. It has public IP, and it's available from the outside of my network. But on top of that, this virtual machine has actually managed identity associated that has read permissions to this storage account. And this storage account, based on Defender for Cloud, scanning results, if I go to this insights view, it contains a whole bunch of various sensitive information. And what this tells us that if this virtual machine gets compromised, the bad actor can use this identity, managed identity, to access this storage account and potentially get access to this sensitive content. So this is definitely something that the security analyst needs to work on and maybe reach out to the resource owners and get this fixed. Right. Another thing is this closer look portion. It actually gives us aggregated view when it comes to discovered sensitive info types. How many instances of credit card numbers Defender for Cloud discovered across your data estate? How many labeled content was discovered for storage and database? And also, see, there is another frame here that shows us all the resources, data resources, storage accounts, and databases that are exposed to the internet, right? So, this might happen intentionally, or it might be just the result of some misconfiguration. And this information definitely needs to be reviewed. So, and when you click any link in Data Security Explorer, well, technically Data Security Explorer is the UI built on top of Cloud Security Explorer, which means when you click any of those links, it will bring us to the Cloud Security Explorer with the pre-populated queries. So this kind of make your life easier, especially if you're not really kind of familiar with the Cloud Security Explorer and how to build those queries. So we kind of pre-populate those queries for you, and you just need to click search. And in this particular case, we will see all these storage accounts and S3 buckets, and some GCP storage, depending on, of course, on your environment and your configuration. And we'll see those resources that are exposed to the internet. So what this exposed to the internet means? This means that those resources can be they configured to allow access from all network. If you remember the storage account, Azure storage account configuration, under networking, there is the various configuration options available. One is like this storage account is accessible from all network. The other one, you can limit which networks can access this storage account. And the last option is like a private network, whatever. So this exposed to the internet, in our case, in case of Defender for Cloud, means that this storage account, well, that's not storage account, this storage account allows access either from the whole internet, or it's limited to specific networks. So we do not really today differentiate. So, and we'll show you this exposure rule here. So for analysis, see, in my case, in case of this storage account allows access to any network from any IP address. Definitely security risk that needs to be kind of reviewed and potentially fixed. So, and the last version of the data security dashboard is this trend view. It shows you how your environment behaves as far as the number of sensitive resources and the number of sensitive resources that require attention over time. So it can be used for like tracking your success and tracking the progress when it comes to remediation, and also kind of help you identify if there are any new resources, sensitive resources being discovered by the Defender for Cloud capabilities. The last piece, so far I've been primarily focusing on storage, but like we mentioned before, today data-aware security covers not just cloud storage but also cloud databases. And today we support managed Azure SQL instances and also AWS RDS instances. I just wanted to show you the experience, so what it looks like when it comes to databases. For that, I'm going to go to inventory and just search for any SQL service. No, let's go the different way. Managed database. Right. So we have several managed databases here, as you can see here, several servers, Postgres. How can I actually see if I have any databases that contain sensitive information? The easiest way to do so is by going to Cloud Security Explorer and just use the filter or query builder, let's call it this way, and just ask Defender for Cloud, show me all the managed databases. And this managed databases category includes Azure databases as well as RDS instances. And if I click search, so Defender for Cloud will show us all the databases, managed databases. But if I want to only see the instances with sensitive content discovered, I want to add this additional statement here: contains sensitive data. And if I click search, right away I see a couple of results popping up. And in this case, I see I have this Ninja SQL server with multiple databases running on that. And Defender for Cloud discovered some financial information. And we'll show you in what database and what table and what column this information has been discovered in. So worth mentioning, and this is very important for the audience to remember. So in Defender for Cloud, we do not collect or store the sensitive content itself, never, for compliance reasons. So when we detect the sensitive content during the scanning process, we only collect and store the location. It could be like a storage account name in a path, like a container name, where this, the container or blob, lives in this storage account, or in case of databases, what column, what table, what database. But we do not, show you what exactly was that, credit card number. No, we do not collect these types of information. That's very, very important to mention. So, this metadata can be used by security analysts or data owners to first of all to verify that this detection was accurate, right? So you can just go ahead and verify that this storage account definitely contains this storage account, this in a blob, and this file definitely contains that credit card number, for example, or this database contains this sensitive content, and then take action, because every DLP solution, every data scanning solution, of course, sometimes generates some false positives, right? So, in our case, in case of Defender for Cloud, so our detection is very high confidence, but when it comes to sensitive content discovery, there is no 100% accurate solution on the market. But in our case, in all our testing, that our confidence and our detection was very accurate. With that, this concludes my part. If we have any questions, we'll be able to answer them in a second. But I want to pass the mic back to Dick to wrap this session up.
It's always the unmute. So before we go any further, if you want to stay up to date, you can subscribe to our newsletter. You can join our public or our private communities. You can check out all of the blogs that Pavel, Stan, and everyone else on our team helps write. Also strongly encourage you to check out our GitHub repos, where we post artifacts that tend to help customers squeeze more value out of Defender for Cloud. And as streamers say, you can check us out on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe there as well. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Valen.
Thank you, Dick. Well, you and the team did an awesome job here, not just by presenting, by tackling all these questions that came in, but there's a couple of them. One of them we had noticed we are having a theme of questions, in fact, around the licensing on identifying sensitive data between the Purview and the Defender for Cloud. So perhaps one of you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, I can answer that. So Defender for Cloud and Microsoft Purview are completely different products, right? So we like Pavel mentioned in his comparison slide. So we have different objectives, right, and different target audiences when it comes to sensitive content discovery. On the licensing and cost side of the things, so Microsoft Purview does have some cost, right? In Defender for Cloud, in order to get these sensitive data discovery capabilities, you need Defender CSPM plan, which is a paid offering, and Defender for Storage plan. Again, in order to get all the benefits of this, let's call it platform, data sensitivity scanning platform, without Defender for Storage, you won't get the alerts prioritization based on data classification or labeling. Without Defender CSPM, you will not be able to use a Data Security Explorer. You will not be able to use Cloud Security Explorer to search for discovered sensitive content. So, in short, again, in order to get the full benefits of this data security posture, you need Defender CSPM offering and Defender for Storage.
Thanks, Stan. The next one is basically, although you answered this, but maybe you can further elaborate. It's basically if we can just touch through the difference between the data discovery from the two products, meaning Microsoft Defender for Cloud versus data discovery from Azure Purview.
I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
So the question is there a difference between data discovery from Microsoft Defender for Cloud versus data discovery from Azure Purview? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yes, and Pavel covered that in details when he was talking about the difference between these two solutions. But I'll try to kind of quickly again remind the audience. So Defender, Microsoft Purview is a data governance solution, mostly. It scans like all your data estate end to end, like every file end to end, like every single storage. In Defender for Cloud, we don't do that because for Microsoft Purview, it might take days, weeks, sometimes longer to complete those scans, depending on the size of your data environment. In Defender for Cloud, we use this smart sampling algorithm that allows us to discover sensitive content, discover enough evidence to for us to say, look, this storage account is sensitive, right? And we do that very quickly, within an hour in most cases. So that's the main differentiator. So the speed. Microsoft Purview does provide way more capabilities when it comes to data governance. In Defender for Cloud, we focus on data security only. Right. So that's the main, meaning that the audiences difference. Microsoft Purview more for data compliance, data governance teams, whereas the Defender for Cloud and it's the data-aware security capabilities for security teams that need to understand if there are any data resources currently at risk. Hopefully this kind of summarizes the.
Great. Yes, thank you, Stan. Appreciate that. Yeah, somebody was going to say something.
It was me.
Oh, sorry, Dick. Well, I think, Dick, you did answer the last question that just came in through the chat, sorry. And that pretty much concludes all the questions. So thank you again, Stan, Dick, and Pavel for being our guest today and for sharing this great information with our public community. Also want to thank the rest of the SMEs here in this call who were helping with the rest of the answering the rest of the questions and providing the resourceful information. So to all the listeners out there still on the line, if you're someone who wishes to aid in the protection of the world from cyber threats and desires to have a say in shaping our strategies, blueprints, and the recommendations, then we invite you to become part of our security community. Because we think together we can make a global impact. So please do so by joining us at aka.ms/security community. This is also where you'll find resourceful information, and you'll be notified about the upcoming webinars, events, and other announcements. As well as I would like to ask you to please take a minute submitting your webinar feedback at aka.ms/security webinar feedback. For those of you who may have additional questions on the topic we just covered, or perhaps other product related questions related to the Microsoft Defender for Cloud, Please feel free to raise them on our Microsoft Tech Community Discussion Space area. That is at AKAMS/MDC Community. Thank you all for being our guests today and for joining our call. And we hope to see you next time. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.